Y'all, I wanted to give you a full garden tour today and show you some of the gardens around my house that I've been working on. Check out these hydrangeas. I love this blue. This one over here, it's a pretty purple. It's a little bit slower coming in, but I've been enjoying cutting these blooms and putting them in the house. Here I have my knockout bushes, my knockout roses. I used to not be a big fan of these, but I've kind of fallen in love with them. I enjoy them. This yellow one here has a scent. And down low here I've got some creeping thyme, and these here little violas that's starting to dry up, and also some mint. I've had this mint here for couple years now, and I enjoy it. And what I do so that it doesn't just take out the bed here is I rip it up at the end of the season. And of course, since it's mint, there's always some left over, and it does come back. And I find that these knockout roses don't get as many pest issues since they have the mint surrounding them. I have some knockouts in the back, and they don't do as well because I don't have anything growing around them like I do with these. Now back here is a bed I've been working on. I just created this last year, and it's filling in very well. Got my more creeping thyme, which I've been pretty happy with. I started all this creeping thyme last year from seed, and it's been growing very well. You see all of them are starting to blossom right now. And what I love about the creeping thyme is it grows very quickly. It's very hardy, evergreen, flowers, and you can even walk on it a bit. It's sturdy. And I'm okay with it just creeping out into the clover eventually. A couple of azaleas out here, but I also have 3 hydrangeas. And you see we've got Daisy the deer has been taken some of them out, but they are coming back here. And this butterfly bush, I love the color. I had to trim it back because it was getting so heavy on itself that it was uprooting. In the early spring, I ended up trimming it back, and it looks so much better than this one over here. And it's because I didn't trim this one. So next spring, I will trim them both back. One of the things I love to plant is lily turf. I've planted all of this on either sides. And lily turf's really easy to propagate. And it grows very quickly, and it works great as a border. You might not want to do it if you're not okay with it kind of growing so quickly. But I'm okay with that. This section here, I added this all last year. And you see it's filling in nicely. One of the things I love about this stuff is that I don't have to weed whack or weed around it. It comes in so thick that it blocks out all the weeds really from growing in there. And then I can just take the mower and mow around the edges, and it looks nice and clean. I've been working on putting it in my backyard as well, which I'll show y'all later. And eventually, it will be all down this driveway too, on either side, along with some azaleas. So in this little bush area, I've got a few azaleas. Now this one is the newer variety that can handle more sun, and these ones are the old-fashioned azaleas. And the old-fashions are really my favorite. They do only bloom once a year, and they prefer a little bit more shade. But when they bloom, they are magnificent. The whole bush just blossoms with flowers. And these newer varieties, which can handle full sun, don't bloom as much. They bloom more often. This one starts blooming in the fall as well as the spring, but they don't have as many blossoms. And these ones bloom in a lovely white. And they're also fragrant, which is kind of amazing. So these two I'm gonna try propagating these I've never done it before, so I'm hoping to have some success with it. Because like I said, I would like to have the driveway lined with azaleas, but also throughout the woods as well. I just got some begonias the other day. I do love begonias. Look. This is my favorite color too, with the darker leaves and the light pink. Let me show you something pretty cool about the begonias. I got these begonias last year. And when they died off, when we got our first frost, I just cut them back a little bit. And I was just curious to see if they'd come back. And well, they did. Early spring, I started to see some life. Pretty excited. So I ended up getting more begonias this year. And anything that I can plant that is a perennial that will keep coming back is worthwhile for me, because I have so many garden beds to fill and I'm still working on expanding. We have 11 acres and some of that will definitely be pasture for animals. But I also, anything that's not pasture, I want to have gardens. So anything that I can put in the ground that will keep coming back is exactly what I need. That's another reason I'm going to be propagating all those azaleas and also propagating the hydrangeas, because they do so well out here. I don't really have to do anything to them. They just grow. We have such acidic soil, which is exactly what they love. Over here, you see these are violas. They're dying back now. It's getting too hot for them. They're another perennial. I don't know if this variety is. I got these from Lowe's or Home Depot, but I'm going to try it out and we'll see. I'm just letting them die back right now and we'll see if they come back. In September, I'm going to start a ton of viola seeds, and they supposedly grow very easily and quickly from seed. And I will put all of those out, and the seed that I bought is a for sure perennial. These said that they weren't, but you know, they told me the begonias weren't annuals as well, so, and they came back. So we'll see. This little area I'm still working on. All these azaleas, these are azaleas here, still working on filling in. Morrow kept attacking this poor thing right here. And you see I've got the lily turf all around, and I have it over here as well. I just put that in just a couple weeks ago. As you saw, the other area that I did just last year, it fills in very quickly. Now this little area out here, these are all old-fashioned azaleas. They bloom beautifully. This one's a salmon color and a very vibrant pink. And I've got some, this is Creeping Jenny and a little fairy house there. This Creeping Jenny was in these little hanging pots last year, and when it got root bound, I went ahead and just took them and planted them here. And so my goal is for that to kind of fill in, and then I also have my lily turf here as well. And eventually, I will have a climbing rose on this pergola. By the way, those Alberic barbier roses did not survive and make it, sadly. But I did contact them and they were very sweet. They're gonna set aside 2 of the Alberic barbier roses for me and send them to me in the fall. Probably October, so I'll give them a call then and let them know it's cool enough to send them off. This is an area that Morrow has just been wanting to terrorize. This is my Pink Lady dwarf apple tree, and it used to be quite tall. I mean, I think I showed it to y'all last year, and then, well, then Morrow took a chomp out of it. And I didn't think it'd come back. I thought it was for sure dead, but it's coming back. I probably should tie it up here. He's wanting to fall down, you see. I've got, this is my Romeo cherry tree, and the reason I got this cherry tree, it's another dwarf, is because it self-pollinates. I didn't have to get a second cherry tree. So I only have so much room around here, and our sunshine on our property is lacking. We have this old growth forest, which is beautiful in a lot of ways, but it is going out, it's dying, and it's a bit terrifying. Yeah, whenever the wind blows, you'll often hear trees falling in the distance. There's just a lot of trees that are dying and dead, going out. So this is my sunwheel back here. These are all Sweet Charlie, and I'm gonna be expanding upon it next spring. I'm gonna get probably 2 more 200 more and expanding the sunwell out. I've had issues. Daisy really likes these strawberries. It's been helping having the dogs out here, and they've been able to startle her off. But today I'm gonna go get some deer netting so I can cover them up. Because as you see, she's been really taking a chomp out of this section here. They will all come back, but we would have gotten a lot more. But she likes to come out here and eat all the flowers. If you're new here, Daisy is a deer that my neighbors raised. So yes, she's wild, but at the same time, she's more used to humans. I haven't had issues with other deer coming around. They don't come around the yard. But Daisy's so used to the dogs and people that she's kind of curious and she comes around anyway. So eventually, underneath the trees, I'd like to have azaleas and hydrangeas, and I'm working on that. I've got several here that I planted last year. They were just tiny, but they've grown quite a bit. And then beneath each one, you know, I've got some thyme here. And these will fill in this whole section here. Got our blueberry bushes that are coming in. We've got 6 of them. And I keep meaning to get 6 more in the fall, and I haven't. And I gotta do that this fall, because I want to have a second row right here. But you see, I have more. These are supposedly Japanese snowball bushes, but I'm not sure about that, because when they did flower, it didn't look like a snowball to me. But this area too as well, I've got several of the bushes filling in. You know what I'm starting to see, y'all, is those darn Japanese beetles. I need to come out here. They're kind of creepy to pick up. They creep me out. But I need to come out with like some big bug tweezers and put them in a bowl of water or something. Try to get rid of them. This area is filling in so nicely. I just planted it last year. This is a wild blackberry, by the way. You see how it has thorns. We have lots of wild blackberries out here, but the ones that don't have thorns, which are these are my Apache, and they are all getting tons of berries. Won't that be fun? All right, let's go check out the vegetable garden. I think everything's filling in pretty well. Check these ones out. This is the mushroom basket. Never had this before. It's a beefsteak. It's an heirloom beefsteak. And they have been doing very well. I've had some issues with some of them getting some sort of spotting. I'm not sure what it is. But these ones have been doing so good, especially this one. I'm going to collect some seeds from this one. Even this little guy. Remember, this is the one that got attacked by the chicken. It's still doing all right. It's not quite as tall as the others, but it's working on it. Y'all, I just cut this clover, and it's gonna need to be cut again. Although it really doesn't get that tall, but it's pretty, isn't it? So happy I planted clover. And these beans, they're climbing, y'all. Look at this. Isn't that looking cool? If you see down here, I love these nasturtiums. Look at this. Not pretty? My hands are dirty. I planted some hollyhocks a while ago from seed. And if you see, this one is so much larger because it's with the beans compared to this little guy right here. Isn't that funny? These ones are doing a lot better over here because I'm assuming they're getting some runoff from the chicken run, which is full of nitrogen. Nathan put this row in for me, the cattle panels, and this is a pumpkin, and I've got lots of watermelons. They have been loving it. They're doing so much better. All the leaves are lifted up off the ground instead of being on the ground. And look at these leaves. I mean, they're ginormous. Every day I have to come out here and train them to climb on the panels because I mean, goodness, every day I say they grow sometimes almost a foot. It's been crazy. So I just kind of come in and I weave them through. They're so much happier, and it's so much easier to go in here and look for pests. I can see under the leaves so much easier. It's just great. See, this one's kind of coming out here. Look at that, got some fruit. This is that Jarendale. You kind of need to go that way, dude. I've been picking some squash. We had some last night. I had some of this white scalloped squash and then some of the crookneck squash. It was so good. I love sauteing it with some onions and garlic. It's delicious. So check this out. So when I mow the grass, or I guess clover in my case, I keep all my grass clippings and I come out here and I dump them heavily on my mounds. I don't just sprinkle them, I just dump the whole thing heavy and thick. And this section here, I sprinkle a little bit around my plants that are growing. But anything else surrounding the plant gets heavy, heavy clover clippings. So if you see here, the top gets kind of crunchy. It's pretty wet right now. We've been having some rain. And then the section below it, it starts breaking down very quickly. See that? I just put this out here, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. If you see, look at that. I know this flower's kind of in the way, but it breaks down pretty quick. It works as a good weed barrier. All my weeds, I just bury them. I bury them with grass clippings or anything that I clean out from the chicken coop. Because then those weeds will break down and die into the soil and give the soil exactly what it needs. Because whatever your soil is growing, that is what your soil needs. Whatever those weeds are providing it with the nutrients it needs to become healthy again. So it's good. I like to keep my weeds. I bury them, and I'm gonna start making my own weed tea. That sounds weird, but I'm gonna get a large barrel, fill it up with water, and any weeds that I do need to pull up, I will put in that barrel of water, and it will just start breaking down, and then I'll have this really nice sludge solution to pour down on my plants, which will have the exact combination of nutrients that this soil needs. Because having healthy soil makes all the difference in the world to make healthy plants. I've lived many different areas all over the country, including Hawaii, and I'm telling you what, the soil matters. Hawaii had the best soil that I could possibly ever want. I could grow anything. I had a large herb garden that I didn't have to do anything to. I never had to water it. I never had to fertilize it. It just grew. And the sad thing about it, though, is when you're in the military, they make you rip all that stuff up. You can't leave it. And that was sad. I had to rip those beautiful herbs up. But the soil was just magnificent. This area that we live in here, our home, we moved here like 4 years ago. I've struggled heavily with the soil that we have out here. It's just lacking in nutrients, very, very dense clay. And when I mean clay. You could mold pots out of this stuff. So I've really been working with my soil. Hi, Morrow. Can you see this little guy? I can't believe this. See if I might have to tie this one up with some twine. But so I've been working a lot with this soil, putting a lot of organic matter down. We've got several horse training facilities around here that I've been able to collect horse manure from. But look at this. It's starting to climb overhead. Is that not cool? Oh, I just can't wait for this to be just beautiful vines overhead. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna order a bunch of hammocks for my squash so that when they start to grow, I can support them up so they're not falling down on the ground. Eventually, I'll make a bunch of hammocks by hand right now I'm just gonna have to get the plastic ones, which I prefer not to have plastic anywhere near my food, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. This is that Moon and Stars. They're a bit slower. See, this pumpkin has just gotten crazy. Look at this. Some of these borages have come down. Gotta be careful handling this borage. It prickles, it pokes you. It's very prickly. It's like squash. I remember I was telling you that this Tahitian melon was getting sick. I did end up clipping the wings. I ended up clipping the leaves off. But you see, it's still getting sick anyway. It's fine. I'm just gonna let it go at this point. Everything else seems to be doing healthy. Look. Oh my God, this thing's huge. Oh my gosh. Wow, I missed that one yesterday. I was pulling up some squash for dinner and that is just huge. I've never grown these before, but these ones are doing good. Nathan had to put a kind of a seatbelt on them for me because we ended up taking the cattle panel down for this section since it didn't need it, and we needed one more for the arch, which I'll show you in a minute. Oh my goodness, this thing, though. Look at all these squashes. So yeah, the seatbelt's here to keep them up. What happened was, and now I know next year I'll do better, is since they were on a cattle panel, they started growing on one side of the panel and getting side heavy, and they started coming down on themselves, and it was freaking me out. I almost thought I was gonna lose these two over here. Nate saved the day again. I was kind of having a freak out attack, and he was like, you know, just go over there on the other side of the garden. I'll fix it. Because they were just cracking, and it was stressful. But he fixed it for me, and they're good now. Maybe they don't look as magnanimous as they did before, but they're looking a lot better. And they are producing a ton of squash. And these guys are doing good. Every day I just come out. It's really important to just keep weaving them through. I didn't do that as well last year, and then they started coming down and I had to keep tying them up. And it was just a real pain in the butt. So every day, honestly, everything's growing so much right now. And I did hit them again earlier this week with some more fish fertilizer. So yeah, I just come out here every day and weave things through. And while I'm doing that, it's a great time to look around for pest damage. I've seen, oh goodness, a few of the worms. They look like army worms. I think that's what they are. But we've got lots of tomatoes coming in here. One of the things I love about that fish fertilizer is that it feeds the soil, not just the plant. And that's something that my weed tea concoction will do as well. Although I think I'm gonna need to come up with another name. That sounds kind of sounds like I'm making something different, you know? Oh. Those aphids that I was showing y'all on this borage last week, I went ahead and just hosed them off. And the next day I came out to check. There was a few more that came back and I just squished them, and I haven't seen any since then. So that was great, because last year I was spraying neem oil on the aphids and it didn't do anything. So it's nice to know that I can just spray water and the water works. But look at these grapes. They are just growing. Don't they look lovely? So here's my arched row. We'll eventually have one more arch. Right now we just have 3. This is the tomatoes. These are the cherry tomatoes that are growing up, you see. They're kind of camouflaged through the borage, but they're there. They're growing. And this thing's a monster, but it's not really producing fruit yet. I see flowers. Oh, look, see? These are the lady squash beetles. If you don't get rid of them, they will wreak havoc on your squash. They'll eat all your squash, and then their larvae will eat all your squash. It's really important to stay on top of that, I'm telling you. Because before you know it, if they start laying eggs, so far I think I've just had to dispose of 2 sets of eggs. But once those eggs start hatching and you didn't check and you realize before you know it, they'll start taking your plants out real quick. That's important to kind of check your leaves. I like to look under them as well because that's where they'll lay the eggs. This will be the pickling cucumber arch. They're slowly making their way up. I planted some sunflowers here too. And these onions, I'm just letting them go at this point. I guess I could start coming out here and digging some up. I think they're past the point where they're not really good for storage onions. They're still good for eating, and I'll just come out here and pull them up and use them. And they're storing just fine in the ground right now. And my carrots did the same. I think I picked most of the ones that hadn't bolted. And I'm pretty sure I can still eat the ones that have bolted too. Oh, look. Remember last week I planted all those beans? Well, they didn't rot in the ground. They're all coming up. Every single one of them. These as well, you see? Got the corns coming up. The corn that I planted last week is also popping up, see? I'm pretty happy that those beans that I got from the hardware store, they had some pretty good germination. I'm excited. I'm gonna have to go get more. The price was right too. This is my tobacco peanut peppero. It's coming along. Can't believe how fast these tomatillos are growing. These tomatillos get huge. Last year I just had one of them and I didn't realize that I needed 2 for them to make fruit. It got huge though. But of course it didn't make any fruit. So this year I've got 4 of them. Oh, I wanted to show you guys. I forgot. Nathan and I were taking a walk throughout the garden yesterday and he noticed something. Probably because he's taller than me. Check this out. The chocolate cherries. Sunflowers are making their pretty flowers. In my mind, I thought they'd be bigger than that. But they're still pretty. Still a pretty color. Lots of tomatoes. Looks like a jungle back here, doesn't it? It's so fun. I love it. And this clover is doing great. You see, I want to fill it in more though. I'm gonna get a 50-pound bag in the fall. I planted some clover in the fall and I also planted some in the spring, and I noticed it did much better when I planted it in the fall. It got more established. So I'll be doing that again, and I'm also doing the crimson clover because I thought that was so pretty. And I know I showed you all before, but you remember the crimson clover over here was kind of reseeding itself. It's still going, some of it. It's not doing as well because it is a cold. This is a winter crop. So some stuff that Maro's knocked off when she runs through here has grown. But there's tons of seeds left here on the plant that will just remain dormant until it starts cooling down again. Let me show you guys something. Now this whole area back here is right along the side of our driveway. Goes from here all the way up to the house area. It will eventually be a pasture area for, I'm not sure if we're gonna do sheep or goats at this point, but we'll figure it out. I'm gonna do crimson clover out here because crimson clover can grow in the shade, and I wanna get something going out here that the animals can enjoy eating. So crimson clover is one of the things I'll be planting out here. I'm gonna do other things as well. I'm just not sure what yet. See, this row here was my garlic row. And there were quite a few weeds on this row, so I buried them all heavily. This is the chicken bedding. And then I was able to get quite a bit of the grass clippings down here. I just put these out, goodness, last week. And you see it's already breaking down really well. And again, I just sprinkle it lightly around the plants, and then everywhere else I put down very heavy. And that works well for me. I mean, you know, grass clippings are free. It's a free mulch. This little herb garden I think is filling in pretty well. But I've got the rocks here, y'all. I need to come out here and weed or weed whack. These daisies. I do love daisies. I went ahead and put some beans out with my melons as well, because they really do aid the plant in its growth. As you've seen here with this hollyhock that's just gotten way bigger than the other ones that have not been planted with the beans. And these nasturtiums have done well too. In fact, my other nasturtiums, a lot of them dried up and died off, and I'm not sure why. But these ones that are around the beans have been doing really well. Check out this wildwoods area. It is getting wild. I need to come out here and mow. You see this pond, this is where I got all the dirt. I dug out this pond here for the dirt over here for my melons. And it's worked great. That random elephant ear growing out there. Elephant ears just grow here wild. In fact, I've had to take some up over here in my garden. Although I guess I could have just let them go. They are pretty. I can't get over this leaf though. These leaves are just ginormous. I'm telling you. All right, y'all, I think that's gonna be it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm gonna go get ready for a fabulous weekend. And we'll see you next time.